let's get back on to footballing matters with regards to Manchester United. Are you surprised by what we're hearing about Cristiano Ronaldo?
No. In all honesty, he is one of the unique talents of world football. He's one of the best 10 players that's ever played the game, ever. He's 37 years old at this moment in time, an ultimate professional. And there's a brand to him as well. And you've got to understand, they've got a new manager coming in, and if you put yourself in the manager's shoes as well, it might not suit the manager to have Cristiano at the football club. Maybe. I'm surmising here. Cristiano's one of those individuals that wants to play every game. So with that, you've got an onus on you as a manager to pick him every game near enough. So it might suit the manager and it might suit Cristiano to part company as such. I know he was, very passionate about coming back to United, but things haven't worked out in regard to probably the success that Cristiano was hoping that he would bring the club, and the club would sort of give him the opportunity to sort of promote. But it wouldn't surprise me if he left and went elsewhere, if I'm being honest.
Stu, I said last season when he was signing for Manchester United, he needs a strong manager to be able to say, you're going to play in this game and then we're going to rest you there. Because every player that I've ever known, and myself included, you want to play every game. But actually, you're not the best judge. And when you get to 36, 37 years old, it might have been better if he played every other game. But Cristiano wants to play every game. So the manager, in the end, gave in and let him play every game. And that was probably a mistake when you look at the bigger picture for Manchester United.
Yeah, and that's the pressure that big stars put you under as a manager as such, And listen, Ten Hag's come in, he wants to stamp his authority on the football club. He wants to have an impact. He knows the club are massively underachieving at this moment in time, and he's got to give them a big lift. And to do that, you've got to make sure the squad of players you've got that you go into the season with are capable of challenging, Listen, I think it's a bit unfair that they're expected to challenge City and Liverpool. You know and I know it's a pipe dream.
Nowhere near it.
We might be wrong, but then they look at this moment in time nowhere near it as such. But it'll be interesting. But one of the biggest issues will be Cristiano. There's no doubt about that. He's been a sensational player, but he'll sit and have a look and say, where is best for him as an individual and his product.
If he ends up going to Chelsea, there's rumours that he might go to Chelsea. Can Thomas Tuchel, is he a strong enough manager? Has he got good enough player skills where you discussion with players and that relationship? Will he be able to say, Cristiano, I want you to play some of the games but not all of the games? Is he strong enough?
Well, I think you can have that conversation. Yes, he's strong enough, there's no doubt. I think all top managers in the Premier League have shown an example of sort of leadership. There's no doubt about that in varying degrees. But what I would say as well, he would offer this, I wouldn't call it a problem because he's such a good player, but he would offer you the same issues if he went to Chelsea as a manager. You'd be sort of almost beholden to play him as such. I can see him going somewhere. I could see him going to the States. I could see him going somewhere else if someone put a big financial package together, maybe to go to the MLS or somewhere like that. I don't know.
Signing. It'd easily pay itself, wouldn't it, with the commercial value?
Yeah.
You mentioned there about Ten Hag, and as ever, whenever a new manager comes in, they want to bring their own ideas to that club, their own imprint. And I don't know if you've seen these 5 rules that he's supposedly implementing at Manchester United. Wanted to get your take on them. Ban on alcohol during game week is one of those. Personal chef have been banned. You have to use now the club chefs for all your food. He will drop any player who is late to training or team meetings without exception. There'll be body mass index checked every month, and also all player grievances must be run past him, and his United squad are not allowed to talk to agents or other sources when they are unhappy. These sorts of rules that he's brought in, are these sort of standard that you'd expect from most managers these days?
Most of them are standard. I think, I've got to say, probably the disciplinarian managers that I've worked for don't really have a set of rules, if I'm being honest with you. It's just common sense, isn't it, Trev?
It's expected,
some of that stuff, yeah. You know what I mean? Don't let your teammates down by being late. I think to make certain things, your job this day and age as a football manager encompasses so much. I always think that if you set 5 rules in place, that all of those must be run past him, and he's got to deal with every little issue and problem that those 5 rules throw up. Okay, so if someone comes to him and said, by the way, and bear in mind, you've got so many cultures in a dressing room now. So you're talking about, let's isolate one, the diet of the players. A lot of these players employ their own chefs away from football, and you can't police what goes on away from football. You think you can, you can't. They do it for the right reasons. They don't do it, cook me up a burger a day, will you, or whatever it may be. They do it for the right reasons, these players, and the different foods that they have culturally around the world is slightly different. I think by putting something in place like that individual rule, you've got to police it. And how do you police it?
Yeah.
It's the same way you move on to the one about being late. Being late's common sense. You wait until he drives around the M60 and gets stuck in traffic on the M60 one day.
But I said, listen, if you're going to, say, Carrington, where Manchester United train, be in an area where you can get there quite easily. You've got different routes, so if there is a problem on one of the roads, you can take a different route. Find out the routes, get your preparation done, because if you're getting dropped, that's a massive blow for a player. You might have been working for 6 months to get in the team.
But what if you're a player
you're
that's
late
been
and you're out
there
of the team?
for a number of years, let's say, who lives so far away, but that's always been accepted? You're now expecting them to move?
When in Rome, you've got to change. Move with the times. Because if you don't, set off earlier then.
OK, Trev, let me put you like this. You're going to... I mean, you don't drive the cars I do, obviously, you know what I mean? You're further up the food chain than I am, you know?
Irish.
You're a first-team player, you're playing in the first team. You come into training one day, get stuck in a bit of traffic, get a puncher, you're late for training, you're dropped. Out. They're the rules. Would you say, fine, they're the rules, what can I do about it? It's unpoliceable at times, Trev. Common sense has got to play a fair part. You're just asking for trouble as a manager.
I think he was just trying to set standards.
Which is fine.
But they're not going to be in stone, because if you've got a player that he's been playing well, been training well, great attitude, and all of a sudden the scenario which Stuart just explained there happens, you're letting him down by dropping him, because he's not meant to get a punch. He's not meant to get stuck in this traffic. No. So he could be causing more problems for himself as a manager.
The way you've read that to me, though, it's hard and fast.
It says without exception.
Which
does seem a bit harsh if there are legitimate reasons.
It's not the real world, is it? It's not the real world.
I think there's so many problems. And the last one about any grievances must come through him. Make no mistake, at the football club, any grievances end up at the manager's desk anyway. Yeah. He'll end up dealing with it.
But he wants to deal with it prior to it going public. That's the problem.
What, prior to it coming to him? But the manager has to deal with it. Eventually it arrives on his desk.
In some ways then, is he sort of setting himself up for a fall sometimes by enforcing some of these rules that you think, they're a bit harsh, a bit too strict maybe?
I think so, personally. I think you'll have enough problems. Alex Ferguson always says, don't go looking for problems, they'll find you eventually. And I'm not sure whether Alex had a big list of rules. I think he had a list of common sense between his ears that said, if you're going to be late continually and you're not going to do something about it, you're going to have a problem and leave this football club. If you've been distracted by commercial things at Manchester United, well, thank you very much. You're no good to me. I'm going to move you on, and so on and so forth, you know. But it'll be an interesting... Listen, the one thing he's got to do, give the club a big lift. And I always thought, whenever I went in to manage a club, you look and see what's gone before you. So if they've had a real disciplinarian in the club, sometimes you go in with a more softly approach, you know what I mean? Because they've had that before and it's not worked. He might look and say, things have become too loose now. And he'll be a bright man. He's been in the game, you know. So he's probably looked at that and heard some of the stories around the place and thought, hang on, I'm going to have to nip it in the bud straight away. Yeah.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.